Hey guys, welcome to What Is This Life? So, this is my third episode, and I get to have two really good friends on this show. But before we get on that, I want to just talk about what is this? What is this life? This is pretty much about the state of our current affairs as it relates to POCs, as to the LGBTQ community, as entertainers, as creators, and just how we're feeling and how we're coping and how we're managing. As you can see, I have new headsets. I got the Krakens with the ears. I don't need the light up ones because I have this really cute ring light now because I'm a professional. Also, kind of mood that I'm in, I am wearing a Totoro Kuiku. I don't really care because guess what? It's quarantine. It's 2020 and we're still in this year, even though it felt like 20 years in this 1 year. So let's go ahead and get to the nitty gritty. First up, I would like to bring to the stage, so to speak, is Grandma Fun, and I will let her introduce herself to you. So here is Grandma.
Hi.
So, who are you and what do you do?
Okay. I'm Grandma Fun. I am a burlesque performer who was from New York and I moved down to New Orleans 5 years ago. And yeah, I'm a performance artist, burlesque dancer, living in the Big Easy.
Yay. And that's where I met Grandma when she moved down. We met down in the Big Easy. Was it Burlesque Ballroom the first time we met? I can't remember.
No, I think the first time we met was Fleur the Tease.
Oh, I think it was Fleur the Tease. Dude, that's been so many years ago.
It was Fleur the Tease and you were like kittening or stage managing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then from there, it's like, we're doing a bunch of shows together.
It was better than Nikki. Nikki, I think the first time I met Nikki was at Fleur de Tease. No, at Burlesque Ballroom, and that's when she had her snake, and all she was doing was carrying around this little basket. And I was like, "Girl, what's in your basket?" And then she opened it. I went, "Ooh."
God, no. No, ma'am.
She helped me get over my fears, so that's a good thing. All right. So, my second guest for the evening is another transplant, but totally a NOLA person. Super glad that they moved down there, but now I'm in their old state. Give it up for Lune Noirr.
Hi.
Yay!
What's up, y'all?
Yay! So who are you and what do you do?
I'm Noirr. I'm a performance artist, contortionist, circus person. Also do like teeth prosthetics. So I'm just an all around crafty person.
Right. That's
very crafty.
Crafty with the teeth.
Very crafty.
And you moved. Steve, very crafty. You need to start making fangs. That's what you need to do.
I have made fangs. I made fangs for myself, so like I can.
What?
Look at me.
I gotta get my setup. Once I get my setup.
I'm gonna hit you up when I need dentures.
I know, right? I just get some veneers. Let me stop. All right, guys. So
yeah, you're in North Carolina.
All right, so what we're here to talk about is, I'm in Podunk, North Carolina. That's what I call that town because I'm in the middle of freaking nowhere, but I am like 40 minutes west of Raleigh and an hour east of Greensboro. So I'm in a nice little middle-ish area. I'd rather be closer to Raleigh where there's more crap going on, but beggars can't be choosers.
See my face, just
I'm like, beggars.
Yeah, I lived in Asheville for a year and a half. And then I was like, oh, I got to get back down to like the real South.
Right.
I was like,
I have visited.
No, I got to get back to the dirty.
I don't know anything about that except that's where my family was born.
I
visited. It's very mountainy.
Yes.
Very Appalachian.
Yes.
And I'm from like Florida, Georgia, pretty much. So I'm like from the swamp. So I was like, I got to get back to like the South.
Oh yeah, and like my husband's father's side landed because they're Irish. They came over from Ireland and landed in Lake Junaluska, right outside of Asheville. So you want some Appalachian? That's some Appalachian,
That's
y'all.
Appalachian.
That's too much Appalachia for me.
That's a whole
when
that's
you
a whole
hear
other breed of people.
speak, when you hear people speak Appalachian, it's just like, whoa.
I'm like, y'all can't be talking nothing about Creole ever again. Y'all can't talk about us ever again.
It's
ever
so
so different.
So different.
No.
I'm like, what?
No, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so like I said, the point of this is, I know, right? The point of this is to talk about, the dumpster fire that is our current situation, how we're coping with this as POCs, as members of the LGBTQ community, as artists, as all of that. So let's just start off with how did, and I kind of wish I was down there when all this went down, because I would have been with more people that I liked. Then in hindsight, after I heard the tomfoolery, I was kind of glad I was not in such a populated area. But real talk, as jokes aside, how did everything, just from the performer standpoint, whenever they finally were like, all right, we're shutting this down, like, what was your first thought process? What did you do? Like, oh crap, now what? Or dang, how long are we gonna be in this? Or like, are they shutting us down, or just down? Like down? Like real time?
The first thing I thought was, thank God I got a desk job 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Real talk.
For sure.
Because I was like full-time performing right after you left. I started becoming more of a full-time performer. And so I would say that was like the first time that I was able to live off of performing full-time. But it got to my nerves. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was thankful for all the gigs that I got, and like I was able to carve that out. But I've always had a job on the side while I was doing performing. So I always had something to rely on. But here I didn't have that at all. And it was the first time I actually pursued it. So yeah, when the shutdown happened, I was like, oh, thank fuck I have a desk job, an office job.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, when everything shut down, I'm not gonna lie, I was really like relieved, because I was already like, I was so mentally exhausted and emotionally drained from just like going to school full time, working as a barista, and gigging all at the same time. I did it for 2 years straight. I had no days off. I worked every single day, 7 days a week for 2 years, some like crazy shifts. And I'm not gonna lie, before the lockdown happened, I was like at my wit's end. I was like getting close to graduating. I was like not happy being a barista anymore. I was just tired. And I remember I told Grandma, I was like, I want to quit burlesque. I just don't know how I'm going to make up that, that cash. Cause like, like you said, like it pays, like I got a lot of gigs, and I'm very grateful for the gigs. I'm very, very, very grateful for every single gig that I got, because it helps me pay my bills and keep afloat. And like, I love performing. I feel like I'm one of those people that's just like naturally is able to perform and just like have a good time with it. But I was just so tired from my life and just having to hustle and being trapped in that. So when lockdown happened, I was like, holy shit. It was shocking because I was working at Pagoda, and I remember when my boss came in and was like, this is the last shift. Like, we're closing down because of COVID. And I was like, ding. And then,
to be honest with you, I didn't really think that it was going to hit us that quickly, because like 2 weeks or maybe like 3 weeks before the shutdown, I was actually up in New York. And then that's when we first started hearing about COVID-19 happening. So immediately it was just like everybody was super tense already in New York. And when I got back, I was like, I don't know, maybe it's probably going to be like a month or so for it to reach us. And I went, oh shit, Mardi Gras. Because like I come back from Mardi Gras and I'm like, oh yeah, because every fucking person is here.
See, and
Yeah.
that's I was talking,
And
to
that's really what like just set it off.
And I was talking to Francis. I was talking to Francis because like my uncle works in a sector of the DoD, and he was like, "Girl, I'm so glad you're not down in Louisiana and New Orleans right now." And I was like, I mean, I was like, it can't be that bad. And he just gave me this look through FaceTime, like, you better go to Costco. You better go to Costco. You better get your shit together. You better do what you need to do.
And I knew COVID was coming because the dental school had signs everywhere, like for the dental office, like if you've been in China recently, like you might be tested positive for COVID. When I saw Italy get shut down, I was like,
I knew it was over. I knew it was over. I knew it was over.
Like Seattle, New Orleans, COVID, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was just like this. It was like definitely a domino effect of cities, and then I mean, it wasn't long. I just didn't think that it was going to spread that fast. But also at the same time, we're such a traveling
destination. Yeah. And then New Orleans, because like when I was talking to Francis, she already knew, because she was getting all kind of messages and she was like, girl, Mardi Gras is gonna hit, give it 2 weeks after that, we're gonna be screwed. And I was like, ooh, you got that right, because it didn't dawn on me until I was like, literally everybody and their mama be coming down to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and they go everywhere. And they travel through and they make pit stops along the way. And I was thinking, there's no way, man, North Carolina got pounded by that disease. And I'm like, where were y'all going? And then I realized
it was traveling.
Well, it's not just that. We have a place up here, manufacturing. It's a pharmaceutical place. And they had a huge conference up in Boston. And that's where another hotbed was. And they all went to this conference in Boston and all came back. And they said, well, y'all can stay at home, stay at home for 2 weeks. But the kids were still going to the school. So their kids that were in this household were still going to school, spreading it to girl. It was lit. I was like, oh, my God. I was like, oh,
New Orleans shut down so quick because it was like Pagoda shut down. Then my school shut down the next day. And then after that, it was like, shows are done. And I was just like, maybe it'll be like done for like a month or something. Nope. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, because we still had gigs. And then people were like, we don't know if it's still happening or not, because people are getting really scared.
And I was just like watching my gigs cancel one by one.
But I had one weekend where I still had shows, and it was like March 16, maybe 17, or whatever those days were, that whole weekend. And I literally, because you're dancing in such close proximity with people. And so like the venue I was at, we didn't really have a stage to separate us because it was like a roundabout. Yeah. So people can like reach out and grab you, if they wanted to. Yeah. But I took it upon myself to make it into a teaching moment. Mm-hmm. And I brought out my spray, my little hand sanitizer spray.
Yeah, nice.
So if they wanted to, like, I would just spray their hands. Because it was such a like an improv show, anyways. So I would always interact with the audience because I didn't really dance. Exactly. I just like messed with people. And then so I would have people take off my corset for me. Like, I'm really the laziest burlesque performer. And so like I would have people take off my clothes, and then I'm like, oh, how funny would that be if I just
and that was around the time where it was just like, okay, everything's getting shut down. COVID.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But like honestly, like when it first shut down, I was like, "Ooh, okay, maybe this is a good thing," because I needed a break from life. Like I really did need like a pause.
Yeah.
Like your girl was running on empty, and then when I saw we was getting the stimulus, I was like, man, this is kind of great.
Right?
I got hood
Man.
rich. I saved that money.
Look, we paid off some bills and banked the rest.
Paid off bills, and I paid, and I sat on that because I was like, I have no
I sat on
idea
that
how
money
New
because I
Orleans.
just didn't know.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was like, how is New Orleans going to go back to what it was? You know what I mean? I was like, no one's coming here for tourism.
Well, and
anymore.
the thing is, we rely on tourism. We rely on it's entertainment. Like people come here. We're like a podunk Vegas, you know. Like people come here to party and have fun and like revel. So and of course, there's going to be all entertainment and bars and music and all this like bells and whistles. And then when it's not there, like New Orleans, there's really not.
It's
anything.
Nothing. It's just.
I mean, like venues are starting to shut down. Restaurants are starting to shut down, and it was just kind of. I mean, like I had that moment. I was like, okay, yeah, like I'm glad. Also, I had a job on paper on the side because I would have been like so like lost. You know what I mean? Because I was coming from school. I'm coming out with debt. You know what I mean? Like all that shit, but like I don't know, everything kind of just like worked out for the better.
And you know what, I agree with that because like I'm not gonna lie, I was like, all right, it's all right, like we're just gonna shut down for a little bit, and then I had all these gigs at these conventions, and it was just canceled, and I was like, I'm like, surely Dragon Con won't be canceled, and then when I got to like June and people still not acting right, I'm like, I ain't going to no Dragon Con. I ain't trying to die.
I mean, like, that's real. Everybody thought it was going to end. Like, I remember when
it was like that movie. What's that movie with Gwyneth Paltrow? When she, like, they're all... What was that? Outbreak.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, that was the first thing I thought when I remember watching that movie, and I was like, yo, I really hope that doesn't happen in my lifetime. And here I am at 34 years old. I said that when I watched Outbreak. Who am I going to be in that movie?
Well, the funny part is we were, Francis and I were cracking jokes.
I'm not going to be Gwyneth.
Because we were talking about 2020, which I'm gonna get to, just the more tomfoolery that happened in 2020. We were like, all right, who remembers that movie Reign of Fire? And we were like, yeah. They were like, what year was it set in? And then we sat there for a second. And then we
hell no.
It's set in 2020, bitch. I was like, so when the dragons arriving? When are the dragons showing up? Like, I will personally welcome my fiery overlords at this point.
Ooh,
well, we did know. We did get aliens.
We did get aliens.
They at least gave us aliens. So let's go ahead and talk about. I'm trying to go into the path of what 2020 is. So we know about the rest of the. Now, how did you feel? And if this is a sore subject, because I know I have many thoughts and feelings and words that I have already spouted in the previous two episodes, but COVID happened, and then the protesting. Now, we know what protesting we're discussing. Yes, I still want my dragons too. But I was like, I still want my dragons. But how did you feel? And I'll just go into my personal experience. Well, let me backtrack. When all of this started happening and went down, the first thing I did was call my mom. I was like, Ma, can you believe what is happening right now? And my mother, without skipping a beat, said, I did this in the 60s and 70s so my children wouldn't have to. And here we are in 2020, and we still doing this stuff. And grandma, and that was the first time in a long time I heard my mom tear up, because she was like, I literally did this in the 60s and 70s. I protested. I stood up against racism. She went through desegregation. You know what I'm saying? And she I mean, my mom has a sense of humor. Um, someone's asking me a question. Right. So it was just odd because like to hear that passion in her voice saying, I've done this. Why are we doing this again? And she goes, I don't want you out there because, as she says, like the old people say, this is a different day and age and it's not the same. She was like, she's like, I might have thrown a brick or five. I was like, wait a minute, hold on, mom, back up. What do you mean 1 or 5? Was it 1 or was it 5? Which one, but
1 through 5.
Right, but she's trying to be funny. She was trying to be funny, but real talk, like she was just like, I did this so we wouldn't have to do this, and we're still back on the same bull crap again. How did you guys feel that when we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're technically not supposed to be in mass groups, but we still wanted to do things for the movement, for POCs? How did that make you feel that all this culminated in such a weird like tornado of, all right, we're in a pandemic with an infectious disease, but I really want to fight injustice and I really want to protest for what's right and what's wrong, but I also don't want to catch stuff from stupid people that want to show up and not wear a mask.
Well, I mean, honestly, I felt like things changed the minute that the news was talking about how it affected the deaths, primarily affected Black and brown bodies, and that when that happened, I saw such a shift of people's attitudes. Because everybody was very scared at first. It's like, who knows who's going to catch it? How is it going to affect you? Oh, it affects the elderly, or fuck the elderly. You know what I mean? But when race got introduced into it, where it was like, there's higher rates in POCs, I was like, oh, fuck. Like my head just went, I wish the news never said that, because there was a moment where I felt, not that I felt like we were completely in unity, but I felt like everybody was kind of on the same page of like, oh shit, what the fuck is this shit,
Yeah.
And then once the protests happened and when George Floyd, when that all happened, I think you get to a point where you're just like, it's enough, like you're tired. And if you could try and safely do it where everybody wears masks, which to me makes sense, like I wear a mask, you wear a mask, and we try to stay apart, and try to be careful. I mean, like, it's hard not to, if you're not being proactive about it, then you're probably going to get it. But if you're going to be in spaces where you guys are being aware and mindful of one another, and the thing was, like, when we went out to the protests, like me and Lune actually did go together, and we discussed that too at length, where we're just like, we were trying to be very safe. We were telling each other like who we was hanging out with, who we were around. We were trying to keep like our pod together. We basically saw everybody trying to be totally aware and mindful of everybody else. If no one had a mask, someone gave them a mask. If no one had, there were hand sanitizers, like people were giving people water, like, and stuff like that to make sure that they were okay. Like everyone was watching out for one another, except for those who were either trying to like aggravate the protests. Or just be fucking assholes about it. But I felt like, when you get to a point where you're just like, I have to stand up and have to do something about it, you basically rise to the occasion. And at that point, nurses weren't even getting PPEs. Like my sister and my mom are both nurses, and they both got COVID too, like right off the gate. But I expected that because they worked in hospitals. But like the fact that they're right there at the front lines and dealing with it and dealing with sick people, and they can't even get any PPE. Like, I can't just sit back here. I could just put on a mask and stay as far away as I can from people. And also do what I feel is the right thing to do.
For me, when the protest started, it was just kind of like watching this puzzle from afar, this grandiose puzzle finally get put into place. And it's like you finally saw how everything made sense. Because like before COVID happened, there are plenty of places around the world that were having mass protests against their government, like just like trying to overthrow their government. And, you know, I was watching it from afar, just being like, I wonder when that's going to start, you know, like traveling over here. Because it's like, it's a domino effect, you know, it's, you know, mass consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's happening in one place, guarantee it's happening in another place. Yeah. So when COVID hit, and then, you know, they gave us our first stimulus, you know, to kind of like quiet us down. And then like people started to kind of like chill out because they're getting like, some people were getting unemployment, some people weren't, whatever. And it just felt like when George Floyd happened, it all like made sense when the protests started happening. Because it's like, there was nothing left to lose. You know what I mean? I felt like if we still had everything open, the riots, the protests, everything from right and left wing would have never gotten to the point that it did, which it needed to. Yeah. It needed to. And we all felt this.
Yeah, like we were at the boiling point.
Right. It was like COVID honestly was like, I think, just like the perfect moment for everything to do it. Because it's like, it took away everything. You know, our great president said, Black people, what do you have left to lose? Now you know. Now you know you have absolutely everything to lose because we did. So when the protests started happening, it was like, let it happen. Let it all happen. All the good, all the bad, all the whatever. Let it happen because it's been building and building and building for like decades. And I feel like our generation in particular has been carrying that anxiety on our shoulders this whole fucking time, because ever since I was a kid, I did have this like looming feeling like this is all gonna fucking like end really badly in our lifetime. Because how could it not? How could it not? With the way that everything has been like set up since like what, World War II and shit. It's like it's all gonna fucking blow up, dude. And I felt like we felt that. So like when COVID happened and it just all felt like watching a puzzle from far away get like finally put into place, and like you just finally see it for what it is, of like, oh yeah, of course, you know, of course. Like I truly feel like we are at the brink of a civil war, you know, if not already. I mean, like you go to places like Oregon, it's fucking nuts. I have friends that have recently came down and they're like, oh dude, like downtown is completely boarded up. Like completely.
See, and like it just blows my mind, because like here, when I moved to this town, it was very hard because of the area that I was in. And I was at a point in my life where I was like, okay, I'm in control of this. I can handle how ignorant people react. I'm not a child anymore, you know, but it's still deep down when you're raised in an area where the KKK pretty much, you know, ran the city when I was growing up, you know, you have this innate like survival instinct to just stay quiet and to keep your mouth shut and to keep your head down. But it's kind of hard when you're like one of 4 Black people that have purple hair. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not that hard to just blend in. And you know, when all of this happened, you know, it was a lot, because part of me wanted to be like, oh my God, I want to be out there. You know, I'm definitely my mother's child. I'm ready to march. But then on the inside, I had to realize where I was, knowing I have 2 tiny humans to take care of. I have asthma, and they didn't give a crap about what they were firing at people. So Lord knows that wouldn't have ended well for me, knowing that my asthma is terrible. And, you know, but, you know, I was pleasantly surprised that my tiny little town had a protest that wasn't all POC.
But I feel like that's what most of the protests are like here. You know what I mean? Like everywhere. It's like not a lot of, it's like a lot of white people, you know?
And I was like shocked because mostly because the vibe that this town gets off, it has such a reputation around the rest of the state that when I tell people I live in blah, they're like, oh, you live where? You know, you chose to live there? Like, you know, like you wanted to live there. I was like, no, I didn't want to live there.
Yeah.
You know, my husband's job moved us here, and this is where we got a house at the time, and I'm trying to get up out of here. But, you know, but I was pleasantly surprised because the town is not as bad because all those people they were talking about are actually a heck of a lot older now. And I've actually met a plethora of way more open-minded, diverse people that actually aren't just hashtag woke all of a sudden, but you know, it's the people that are speaking up in their own way, which I will give them mad props because they've been going into offices and changing crap. You know what I'm saying? Like you think it's quiet, but you got these 30-something-year-olds in these towns running for office, changing crap there, not tolerating certain things, kicking people out of places, calling people out publicly. I was like, oh, okay, I see you. It's not just, okay, so it's just the old biddies from 1932. Okay, got it. But, you know, like it was a lot. And just like you said, just seeing all this culminate, you know, 33-year-old me was like, I'm tired of this. Like, I'm tired of dealing with this. I dealt with it growing up. I thought I had escaped it for a point when I was in New Orleans. I didn't really have that big of a deal as I did in the other town. But man, when I got here, it was like PTSD triggered. Like, I was just like, I'm back in this again. I'm back in this again. Why am I back in this again? You know, and honestly, it was like a relief off my shoulders when everyone was protesting. And then when other countries are protesting about the issues that our country has, that should have been a wake-up call. Y'all, Germany is protesting about the injustices in our country.
Well, like, we fucking reprimanded Germany so hard after World War II.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, what's the whole point of having a global government where we had these steps to put you back into place when you didn't? The fuck, nobody is helping us. Nobody is intervening. You have a fucking Trump president that is like just outright endorsing fascism.
Because our country is trying to be like Captain Save-A-Ho, and we feel like we have to save everybody else, but we can't save ourselves.
But it's astonishing. It's like, what was the point of creating like a global government?
Well, it's like why were there wars other than obviously for, you know what it was? It was
exactly
to gain capital. Because like, why did we have to go into all of these things? And that's like the biggest elephant in the room, right? We won World War II, and then everybody stayed in World War II. You know, and I think that was the last time probably the U.S. was as unified like ever, right? Where,
what unified?
They all rationed collectively, but not unified like for.
It was Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor unified everybody because that's
what not World War II. That was what 9/11 was supposed to be.
But was it?
Was it?
But was it though?
But was it?
Homie,
now I'm not gonna get all conspiracy, but that is something crazy. That is something that like my professor in college was that was the very first thing he had mentioned. Where he was like, that building got demolished.
now we're turning into a conspiracy channel. All right, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I was in Jersey during 9/11.
Make you like fear of like the Taliban.
The other,
yeah.
I mean, like I'm not saying that there isn't.
In the 5th grade, it's like, what is this bullshit they trying to put in my head?
I'm not saying that there aren't any there isn't any evils out there in the world, and that there isn't things that we shouldn't be fighting for. But I feel like the rhetoric of like America and American politics has always been like they're on, like they're on a Captain Save-A-Ho trip, and it's like, there are other people in other countries who got it together too, but you fucking demolish their shit, and then they got to start from scratch all over again,
it's
and they
like
have to start the capital again.
We won't have a purpose in a war unless we are personally attacked on our own soil, and then we have to defend it by fucking any means necessary. But it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Just like growing up watching all that, not having it really explained to you, but you're just having all this propaganda of like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is what you're supposed to hate. And you grow up just being like, I'm always in a constant war. Like our country's always in a constant state of war. Like
but that's kind of just how.
And yeah, you just like that you just grow up like normalizing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't question it anymore. You're just like, oh yeah, this is what it is. You know what I mean?
I think the best way that one of my friends put it is that like, it's about classism, and that poor folks, regular folks, are basically forced to we're like pinned to fight each other, so that we're not really focusing on the bigger picture and what's at hand, and that like all of this grifting that's going on, that we're just a bunch of like, we're just pawns in this, in this game. And then when you put it into that context where you're just like, you don't actually, as a citizen, don't really have that much weight or power as you think. And that we're basically just taught to constantly fight the other and protect our own, and like, instead of it being like critical and thoughtful and learning from one another and sharing with one another, and you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's so much easier in some other countries, like there's this like need for, and like I was born and raised in the Philippines, immigrated to New Jersey when I was really young, and just I've always had this kind of pretty worldly view anyways, because I just grew up in so many different environments my whole life. And I travel a lot, like my dad was a captain and stuff like that. So we and our families are always traveling all over the world. Like we're always going somewhere, working somewhere else, doing something else. Like we've always just traveled. And I just noticed once in other countries, people ideally are trying to learn from one another sincerely. And like, it's not like I didn't feel that when I was here in the States, but it was also kind of there's always this sense of urgency of like, I have to pin some blame on somebody else because they're different. There's something wrong with them. There's something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if there was a way to like, I always felt like it was a lot of like cherry picking of what they like out of a culture, and then disregarding everything else.
Okay.
It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's how I felt here. Like I felt like I sometimes felt a lot like a prop.
It's funny you should say that, because that brings me into my next topic that I would love to discuss. We're getting into Grandma's face, Grandma already. So we're getting into the topic of, the taking and cherry picking from cultures instead of learning from each other. Let's talk about us as performers, as people of color in the industry. Okay, so we all kind of know each other's personal experiences from working together to working together down in New Orleans, performing and stuff. Now, how have you felt since the whole the bursting of the bubble, so to speak, the straw that broke the camel's back, from COVID to George Floyd to people waking up and all this stuff? How have y'all felt about when it comes to racism within our industry, and that is a thing, and cultural appropriation? Have you seen any change in behavior? Have you seen people trying to backpedal, trying to.
I haven't seen nothing. I'm legally blind. I'm being so honest. Like, I'm legally blind. I can't see anything.
I'm so done with Lune. I'm so done with Lune.
But am I wrong? It's like, listen, we live in a world of instant gratification. Yes. And that's just what it is. You know what I mean? So people do things one week, and then next week, it's a completely different story. So when George Floyd happened, of course, everyone was like, you know, rightfully so, like speaking up like, hey, like, this is terrible. Of course, a human being was mercilessly killed.
On TV.
And did shit. You know what I mean? And it just like reminds me again of like, this is the world that we live in. This is what your worst fucking like imagination dreams come true. Like, this is it, you know? Like, we live in a world where you can sit in your fucking living room at work, look at a screen, and watch an innocent person just get killed.
Well, and to be honest with you,
played over and over and over, like,
well, yeah, I mean,
porn.
Yeah, it is trauma porn, and it's like gets you to desynthesize, like. You just know, you get so numb to it, but it's also like, it is, okay, so from my experience, it's like, I lost my ex really tragically in a really bad way too, and it was something that replayed over the news, like I couldn't escape it, right? And so like, you know, he died in a 99-cent store in a fire, and he was a firefighter in the Bronx. And like when it was like on the news, I knew the next day that it was going to be the New York Post, and I knew it was going to be in the Daily News, and that I was not going to escape it because it was all over, right? Mm-hmm. And then so at the time, Facebook wasn't that huge at the time. Like, I don't even think Facebook existed like that heavy. So like, I'm thankful for that. You know what I mean? Because I like, that was enough of an experience to traumatize me, but how much more when you're on Facebook and social media, and that's like, and you have your friends and your friends' family and your fucking, and all these fucking people who don't even fucking know you, just replaying this person that you love, your father, your fucking, your husband, your cousin, your sister, whoever, like, replaying all of these videos and then just being like, see, this is what happens all the time. And it's like, that's like your family member. That's that's somebody that you're related to. That's somebody that you've shared intimate moments with. And it's like, I'm constantly being like, you know, I understand that your passion and your heart is in the right place, but also you have to think about the shit that you're putting out there, because it is affecting somebody who personally knows this person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this horrible thing is happening to them. And that like fucks so much with your emotional and mental health. Like, it took me like nearly a decade to get out of that grief and depression that I was in, because like, I was constantly reminded, you know, like, I left New York in a very painful note. But I also like worked really hard to just get back, you know, like to reclaim my life, because like, that was something, no one could do anything about shit that happens like that. But when you're constantly seeing it happen, and especially when it's like an injustice, you know, somebody's like flat out being murdered, and they're showing it over and over again, like, I would lose my fucking mind.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, even with like the Breonna Taylor like memes, or just like watching this human get reduced to a meme, or like an afterthought of like, now that I have your attention, cute little pose.
Yeah, see, that was the thing that I was not into with a lot of the burlesque performers. I'll be honest, that was something I was not into with a lot of burlesque performers, where they're like, oh, here's my tits. Now that I have your attention, arrest the cops that fucking murdered Breonna Taylor.
And I'm like,
did you have to show yourself? I'm not saying don't not, you know, but it's so exactly. The narcissism, I think, just like skyrocketed.
And it was just like, honestly, it was very reassuring of a lot of the feelings I felt towards a lot of things, just watching like people from near and far show out during this whole time, you know, acting like they care about Black and brown, trans, non-binary lives. And it's just like, it's just a circus act. You know, these are real fucking issues. I don't think it's appropriate to be using your narcissism to blast about these issues, because you're reducing the severity of this very real thing that has been always happening throughout history. And a lot of people have been acting like they've always cared, or like they're doing the work to learn how to care, which, don't get me wrong, if you are sincerely trying to work on yourself, that's great. You know, like, I'm not here to discourage that by any means or look down upon it. But when you have to constantly say it over and over and over to like such a spectacle, you know what I'm talking about. You see a lot of people online doing that shit
well,
for
it just
likes,
comes off as very,
doing that shit for
performative.
profit. You know what I mean? Like, it was disgusting. Like, I even saw like certain like Black Lives Matter members like embezzling and shit. It was just like, COVID really was an eye opening.
Well, and I feel like COVID opened the flood doors further for a lot of people to show their ass. So
yes, I was like, wow, that's who you are.
Yeah, I mean, like, but real talk, like quarantine.
That's what's my face a lot on the screen.
Yeah,
I'm eating too.
Quarantine,
so, you know.
You're fine. No, but quarantine, I feel like has forced a lot of people to not. How do I want to put it? I feel like quarantine has forced a lot of people to take a look at themselves and to look at the people around them. And honestly, you start seeing some shit that you are not happy with. People start showing their true colors real quick. And
quick.
And you start seeing stuff and you're just like, oh, this is what we doing right now, you know, and you get to see how selfish some people are. And I will say this though, one thing that I lied, two things that I lived for during all of this. People finally having enough, like finally, truly, honestly, not having anywhere to go and be, and finally having enough, and finally putting people on blast for the BS that they actually been doing, and them having to take ownership for it, because you can't run from it now. You can't run from it because everybody's stuck at home and on the computer. Like, sorry, you can't run from it.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. People are very quick to forget.
It's like, who cares that you call
because you know? Because I will say right now it's been what? We've been 6 months into the quarantine, and I understand people got to eat and they got to figure shit out and whatever. Like, we're all trying to create hustles and make things happen right now, however way that we can to survive. But like, shows are popping up again, and people are, you know, and people are talking about like, oh, it's socially distant, whatever. Now, I'm not casting a huge judgment. I'm just saying, how really socially distant are we? Like, it just, to me, I'm like, that still doesn't make much sense to me. You could be as safe as you can possibly, and I understand that people are trying to get back to work, but I'm like, how quick that all happened.
But and I'm gonna bring that up too, because I'm glad you said that. It's about the shows that they're saying, but I have another thought process on that, because I've seen some things that are done well, and I've seen some things not done well. And all I have to say is, and you're wondering why y'all are having spikes. But like I was saying, getting back to it, you know, people actually finally standing up for themselves. I guess this was the breaking point that made people to realize, okay, I'm not going to be a doormat anymore. See, now I didn't forgot, dang, because now I got my brain track on these two different examples of how not to do in a show. The other thing, no, you're fine. The other thing I did see is a lot more. I don't know if y'all seen it, but I've seen a lot more unification in a lot of the black and brown community, but I have seen some division where it starts coming into the trans brown and the trans brown and black people, which is a whole nother thing, which I don't even think should have been a division. I don't know why this is even a thing. It just blew my
I
mind.
like
I was like, we
don't
all
even know.
like what is this about? Like, why are we getting into this phobia? We don't have time for this. Like, we trying to unify as a people. Why are we trying to divide our orientations like this right now? This ain't the time. It never was the time. Can we not? Like, can we freaking not? Like, can we not? But I will say there has been a lot more that I've seen. I know it's not true everywhere, but a lot more unification within the brown community. I want to say as a whole. Like, I've seen some great web-based shows that have been done great to promote more black and brown bodies. People using their privilege to push up these shows to make sure that people can get paid during COVID. Which I will say is a positive way. I feel like that people have been helping, being like, okay, I really need to get out of my ass. I need to actually do what I say I'm going to do. And like, we had a show up here, the producer backed the whole show. White producer backed the whole show, hired nothing but brown people, paid us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not like they hadn't done it before, but they were making more of a habit of it now, because they're like, okay, I didn't realize I'm the only person in this area doing this. I didn't realize as many producers we knew in this area, really, it's just me. Like, what kind of like, I can't believe nobody's doing this as they should. But we're gonna take a pause for a bio break / potty break, was what that means. So we'll be right back to continue being salty and talk about how the world's on fire. Let me figure out how to put this on. So we'll be back, guys. We'll be like, what, 5-ish minutes until I get back. Look at your nails. All right, guys, and we're back. So, if you're just now joining us, we are talking about the shenanigans that is our current state of affairs as it affects us as POCs, and that's entertainers. So, we're going to bring back Grandma Fun. Yay! And
I'm back.
we'll bring back Lune Noirr. Yay! Also, if you're feeling thrifty, tip Grandma Fun. Oh yeah, with her door knockers. You can tip Grandma Fun at Grandma Fun. And you can tip Lune Noirr at Lune-Noirr. 2 R's, y'all. That's 2 R's.
That's my name.
Because she's feeling sassy. All right, guys. So we left off with talking about, oh my goodness,
everything.
We were talking about, the shows where, good things have popped up. Now, I did say I wanted to talk about shows I've seen popping up that's saying they are social distance and they're safe. Thoughts and feelings on that? Thoughts and feelings before I say mine.
I'm not going to any shows, so I have no thoughts and feelings.
I'm not comfortable being out there, even regardless if I'm going to get booked or not, just because of the state of things. And I understand that, like, everyone's trying to get back to this sense of normalcy, but I don't feel normal taking my clothes off in the middle of the pandemic to people who have been quarantined inside for 6 fucking months and probably don't know how to act. I mean, like, we're also in New Orleans, so it's crazy anyways. But imagine 6 months of, like, not being inside. I mean, or being inside, coupled with drinking. Like, there's a lot of elements. And I'm not saying that people aren't going to be respectful or whatever. It's just like, I feel like when you're pretty much down to your skivvies at this point, I just don't want to be caught out in my most vulnerable.
Here's my thing.
Like, that's my take on it. And I personally don't think that they're not really trying to be, not that I don't think that they're trying to be socially distant. It's like, it's kind of impossible in some of the spaces they're in because it's small.
Here's my thing.
So there's that.
With the shows coming back and everything, you can bring back the shows to whatever, that's fine. I personally feel like I will not participate in any live show space because since everything that has happened, there has been no effort to change any of the bullshit that is happening in our burlesque scene. Black and brown bodies are still not promised safe venues or higher pay. It's like we're just picking up where we left off. No, I don't. COVID made me realize what I will tolerate and what I won't tolerate. And I won't tolerate a lot of shit, and before it was hard to like navigate that. And now I just feel like I don't have to deal with that. Yeah, cool. It's socially distanced and this, that, and the fourth. That don't mean nothing to me. We don't know how fucking COVID works. You know what I mean? And like, honestly, I've always navigated like this with my art. I am a performance artist whose current medium at that point was burlesque. That was what was appropriate for the time. Times have changed. I'm a firm believer that art has to reflect the times for it to be relevant for people to sympathize and to vibe with it. And for me personally, I just don't feel like burlesque currently is the medium that I need to be participating in. I don't want to be taking off my clothes to what is a potential Proud Boy or racist or this, that, and the fourth. I'm a performance artist. Every avenue is an open avenue for me, and like I don't want to enclose myself into one box. So So if I have to evolve away from burlesque, that's fine. I don't need to take off my clothes. I am a still powerful performer, regardless if I'm naked or not. Mm-hmm. Getting naked was just to fit the bill. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's part of
it. It's true. It's true.
Like, well, you know what? And I feel that whole mood because I see stuff and like, you know, I just go, no, I don't, y'all, and like it's gotten to the point where, you know, I don't know if it's just because I'm tired. I'm just tired, you know, first with the racism thing, then, you know, COVID hit and I literally made a whole TikTok, like just a TikTok range of just me realizing that even though I love my children dearly, I'm stuck in my house with them for X amount of time. And I love them, but I'm not a teacher, y'all. Like I can't teach tiny humans. Real. I don't have patience. I don't have patience for tiny humans to teach. Like I love mine, but I can't teach them. Like I can teach.
I mean, there's a reason why you send your kid to school at a young age. You know what I mean?
When I had kids, I had expectation that from the age of 5 to 18, they'd beat the hell out of my house for 6 to 8 hours a day. But anyway, but I mean, joking aside, but you know, everybody has their own aspects. Shut up, Furious. So silly. So Furious has jokes.
There is the power of cinema.
There is the power. But real talk, you know, everybody has their own thing. You know, like Grandma has her thing, Lune has her thing. You know, I'm over here just like, okay, I have to be a full-time. I mean, I'm already a full-time mom, but I have to teach these children too.
Yeah.
That's what I said. That's what I was paying for school for. Like, that's why I was like, you're not supposed to be in my house right now. You know, but joke, like, I'm cleaning the house. I have to do extra cleaning because Aaron works at Pfizer. And he, even though they have safe steps to take, he still comes in the door, strips down, throws it in the washing machine. I have a robe waiting for him. There's like extra stuff that I have to do around the house now.
Well, when you're going home, it's like you also have to think about you bringing that back to your family, or if you're living with roommates or your significant other, you know, and so like, and if I don't have to be, and I mean, and not everyone has this luxury, but at the same time, who is really making a livable wage in burlesque? Not all of us, maybe some of us who have production companies and whatnot. But like the majority of burlesque performers, come on, y'all. We can't even get it together with a fucking union. You really think that you're coming home to what?
It's
to like
true.
making like, you know, and I'm not saying that like, burlesque is not the end all be all, but it is not what pays the bills for a lot of people.
And let me just be real. I'm also a contortionist. So you want to tell me I'm going to have to do my contortion act in a motherfucking mask? 8-minute long contortion act and a motherfucker, and you gonna pay for that? That's some superhero shit. I ain't no fucking superhero.
Okay? I ain't no hero.
That's you gonna pay an aerialist to do a 20-minute act in the air in a fucking mask and expect that person not to fucking pass out?
Well, there's no like there's no hazardous pay, right? I mean, there's like if our nurses and our doctors and people who are like working at hospitals, they don't even have hazard pay. Like like we are the lowest form of entertainment. The lowest form. That is, let's be fact. We are the lowest form. We're performing for the most part in some places, dingy ass fucking bars, thinking it's a fucking Moulin Rouge. And and you know, like, you're not getting paid that much at the end of the night. I mean, like, your priority is, where is it at this point? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying, but you're returning back to these places, and it's like, well, are they paying you much higher? Do they have, like, not only are they trying to keep you protected and all that stuff, I'm not saying that people aren't trying to do the right thing, but also, is it worth for your health to go perform?
And if you don't have to. If you don't, and I will say this, not everybody obviously has the luxury to, be able to have a backup job. Like, I literally lost everything, but I have a partner that works corporate. Now I will say
Right.
my money did help pay the small, like the little medium, she's a middle of the road for stuff that the kids needed. Like, I help pay for their socks, their underwear, Christmas presents, I help pay for that. That chunk of money that I was getting, but like you said, you gotta work at it. Like, I was flying all over the place to make the money that I was making.
Yeah.
Literally driving, like flying back to back to back
it's
places.
hard
But
work.
Yeah.
but that's
I'm not saying
abusive.
that it's not a job.
No,
It's
no,
just that
no.
it's not a guarantee
Well, that's
that
what
you're
I'm
going to be making, like,
that's what I'm saying.
what
But
you
And
would
just
ideally
like
want to make.
having to perform in this day and age with like the political climate, the health climate, everything is that. It's like, are you going to be paying for all that? Because we all kept saying, oh, POC, the rate went up, the rate went up. Did it actually go up? No, I didn't see no contract where it was like, yes, the rate will go up for you. No one's ever put nothing down legally on paper.
The other thing, though, to counter that is that a lot of people ask for too little, and especially Black and brown performers. They, just because they want to get the stage time and they want to appease, the gatekeepers in some capacity, they will whittle down their worth. And that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Is for any of the performers or new performers that are out there, and especially if they're Black and brown, you need to demand your worth. And not only, and if you're not hitting the stage right now, this is a perfect opportunity to start creating. So we also are, like, in the flip side, we also have the power of the internet, right? We also have all of these tools that are, like, I've always been a creative, and I went to school for film, which I'm in massive debts for. But like, I like make short movies, and I've always done stuff like that. I've always been a storyteller, and I've always, like, I'm self-taught in as far as like programs like Final Cut Pro and all of this stuff. Like, we're all like learning now that we're like, okay, so we don't have a stage, but I have to build a stage now, and I can build like my perfect idea of like what a venue might be. And then
this
so
is now
there's
actually
this other element where you're moving into visual storytelling. And you could spend the time really to create this space for yourself. But as far as like live entertainment at this point, it is such like and like like my dude is a sound engineer. So his club shut down, but they furloughed them. But now it's like month 7, and there's still no music. There's no, you know what I mean? And they haven't even bothered to try and open up. And like, I've been having to do a lot of the support, and it's hard when you and your partner are both involved in the arts, because someone is gonna have to do a shitty, and I'm not that my job is shitty, but the, quintessential boring desk job. Someone.
Can I answer this person's question real quick?
They want to know, how would a new performer like the ones you were talking about know their worth?
No one can tell you what your worth is. That is something that only you should be able to know. If you don't know your self-worth, then you are definitely in the wrong industry, because people are going to suck and take advantage on you like a vampire. So if you don't know your worth, you in the wrong room. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. Run. Burlesque may be on the bottom of the totem pole of entertainment.
But the thing is, you need to know you need to know that actually what you're putting out there is enough. Okay. And like, if you're gonna be trying to get into something like this where it's kind of like a Wild West, like, no one here is like contracted. We don't have a fucking show in Vegas. We're not touring. And even then, that's like the highest caliber, right? That like, you have to be like, in order for you to succeed in this, you're touring with Dita.
Yep.
Or you're in you have a contract show in Vegas.
Or Atlantic City.
Overseas. Or overseas.
Yeah.
Or you're in, yeah.
Well, Atlantic City.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that is the type of, that is pretty much like the highest you can go in this form of industry.
But like as you're starting into this scene, yeah, there are like weird tiers of payment, and again, it's like up to the producers. There's a lot of like freedom, but also as a performer, it's like if you don't figure out what your worth is, like if you don't have confidence enough in yourself to be like, hey, I can say no because I know that I'm a lot more worth than this.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of power in saying no than just saying constantly yes to anything and everything. Just because you feel like, oh, I'm exposed everywhere and I'm getting booked everywhere doesn't always equate financially.
Nope.
Because you're always, a lot of times you're taking a hit more than you are, profiting or making money, so it's kind of like a catch-22, like you want to be out there, you want to be seen, but also what are you even doing to get all these bookings to get you seen? Like there is the formulaic route, and then there's the route where you are revered, as somebody who's artistic and that people enjoy your vision and what they're looking at. And then there's also the vapid route where people are just like, you know what? She got nice big old bitties, a small waist, and no tattoos and no marks of any sort.
About what market you want
nothing
to
jiggling except for the butt.
Yeah,
we're gonna hire her.
What you want to tap into. It's all about what you want to tap into.
And like I'm gonna comment a little bit more on it too. It also can help in a sense. And I'm not saying everybody gonna get this. I know I didn't to an extent. I had to reach out beyond my sphere in the beginning. But you need to try and get a gauge of not what the base rate is. If you have people you feel comfortable reaching out, if you're going to get into this type of thing, you should start doing your research. And like with me, I'm glad I got to know a lot of people in the town, that I got to learn the good and the bad from. People I interacted, I learned the good things from. I learned some bad, okay, and even though there might be a set rate, you have to take an effect, and this is the finance aspect of me. How much did this costume cost me? What's my rate of return on this costume? What do I feel comfortable as a human being feel comfortable being paid for exposing myself and putting myself out there in pasties and a G-string, depending on what your ball is, maybe less, on a stage, and you have to, and like the finance part of me is like, okay, if these stones cost me this cost me this, I perform X amount of times, I should be making this per act. And even though there's like a minimum, okay, but what's the standard? There's minimum and then there's a standard. That's two different things.
Yeah.
Yes. Like you need to be like, all right, the base minimum is $50 an act. Cool. I start at 85. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to know what you're worth. Like you can't, and I won't forget times when I was a baby burlesquer, I got paid $25 for a night of work.
Girl, that's a charity.
And yeah, that was my charity gig. But, that's when I didn't know any better because I got told, X, Y, Z, whatever, until I pulled my head out of my butt going, okay, I need to think of this, not just from my dancer aspect, from my back. I need to think of this from I went to school for finance and then I use this of a price piece of paper and understand what's going on. So that's when I started.
And you got to equate too to like materials. Like, okay, like what props am I bringing? What props am I using? You know what I mean? How much is, like how extreme. Like if you're like me, it's like how extreme my makeup is because I do like alternating, like complete transformative makeup. So if I'm bringing one of my like body painting makeups, the rate is way higher than what I would normally charge for like an act where I'm not doing body makeup. And sometimes people don't get back to me because they don't want to pay. That's fine. But now, if you want me, you're going to have to put money on the table for certain acts because like that's time and effort.
Well, I think now there's also a sense of like urgency when it comes to like, for payment or like how to get paid or your rate after COVID and present COVID, right? Because before, I feel like a lot of the, like, there was always talks about that behind the scenes, but I feel like a lot of people went into this, like, it's a passion project, right? And then others have all, we're all coming from different financial backgrounds too, you know what I mean? And we're all like, everybody has like different jobs and different whatever's, but like for full-time performing, it is a lot. It is a lot of, I mean, it's like being a musician, you know what I mean? Like, you're playing in however many bands and you're doing as many shows. And so until you finally get the one band that's like touring, that's your ticket out, right? And you're constantly touring and you guys get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's like in a similar sense in that way. But especially now with COVID on the line, and we don't have like health insurance. Like if you're a full-time performer and you're not, doing something off of the marketplace, there's no like, plan B for performance artists.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's like some things that are out there that are like, like the Musicians Clinic, where we're recognized as culture bearers here in New Orleans. There is like a sliding scale for us to go to the doctor.
Yep.
But like, what happens when you get COVID? And you could be as safe as possible as you want, whatever. But what happens when you do? Like, places still have to shut down if they're like, hey, we've had like an outbreak at this location. Just to say, like, you're constantly taking this risk when you go back. And so that makes it just even more important to like be like, hey, I demand more worth because now it's my safety's on the line. I know that you guys are talking about, socially distant and whatever, but like, what's the parameters in that? Like, am I wearing a mask when I'm performing? Or is the, of course there's no entry, no mask, but then it's like the onus is on you to like, as a performer, you have to change your whole, what your aesthetic is, right? Like, are you going to wear a mask or are you not going to wear a mask?
And I have not seen any production or producer that has assured anybody that if you do catch COVID on, my clock, this is how I'm going to take care of you. Because it's like, if you are relying on that, if that's your full-time job or whatever, and you can't go back to work because you're sick, what do? You fucked.
What do you do? And everybody's coming at it. Like, we're all coming out of our pods now, right?
Right.
So like, you don't know where X, Y, and Z performer, have they been traveling out the country? Did they like, because people are still traveling out.
Yeah.
Still. And like, you don't know what they've done. You don't know if they're just going willy-nilly, eating at restaurants, hanging out at people's houses, like, and then, putting on a mask for show. Like, you don't know their life. So like, I just think like it's kind of premature to go back.
I feel it's way too early to go back, especially numbers have been spiking. There's new research out that I know because of people that they've actually re-rated all the face masks, and that they have this realized that 6 feet is not enough.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we don't know how this shit works, man. And I'm everybody's jumping to conclusions and shit. It's like, but you at the end of the day don't know how this actually works.
And I tell people, like, there's always going to be new research, and the safest thing that you can do is wear a fucking mask. Wear a fucking mask.
And also, like, if you don't, I don't know. It's just like Grandma said, it's a catch-22. It's between a rock and a hard place with everything.
You're damned if you do, if you definitely don't. And I can tell you that when
I mean, there's also the element though of like now that the internet, right? People are live streaming, people are doing these things, and I'm seeing some some not so interesting stuff, and then some stuff that are just like, oh, okay, but I mean, this is like a new realm of like learning.
Wear your damn mask.
It's true. Wear your masks, please.
Yeah.
Make your masks fun.
It's just like using a tissue when you sneeze. Just use one. Just do it.
Well, but you know what? Like the thing is,
I don't care if you
like,
like it or not. It's just like I don't want your nose spray all over me.
I just think it's just cultural too. Like Americans, I hate to say it, Americans are fucking dirty.
No, it's a cultural thing because like even like my mom and dad, they lived in Japan for 10 years, and when the mask thing happened,
I was just about to say that.
My mom was like, "That's normal when we used to live. If you were sick, it was polite for you to wear a mask so you didn't spread your shit. Like that was not a taboo. You put on a mask. That's why she's like, that's why they had so many cute ones, because it was a fashion statement too. Because you are sick, you wear your shit.
Oh like, yeah, Japanese punks wearing masks all the time while they're playing.
I will vouch for that in Tokyo, because like when I did the boyfriend gig, when we did a show out in Tokyo, like I swear to God, I felt like I was in Disney World when I was walking the streets. They had not a single garbage can, because I was like drinking water and I was like, oh, let me throw out my bottle. And I couldn't find a single trash can. And then I was like, wait, but how are the streets so clean? And then they have people who like pick shit up, you know what I mean? Like they're actually sweeping, but it's so clean. And then when I went to the bathroom over there, they had a bidet in every stall in the public bathroom. And I felt like every time I went to the bathroom publicly, I was in a spaceship. I had all of these options for the kinds of water to clean my booty and then how to dry it.
I mean, but if you think about it, if you're taking a shit and you ain't fucking using water to clean your ass, you're just using some kind of fucking toilet paper. Like, you still got shit in your ass. Like, it's still boo-boo in there. You gotta wash that shit out. It makes sense. You know,
I was shook in Japan.
It does. It really does.
I'm gonna tell you, my mom and dad's one of actually I should say it's more my mother's best friend. But she was a Japanese woman that married an officer, and she moved back to the US with her husband, and she lived in the same off base where a lot of the officers live. And I was a child and experienced my first bidet, and I was like, well, if we had this, I probably would have potty trained better. Like, come on, homie.
I mean, it makes it's a, I don't know why that's not a normalcy here, but like,
I mean, in the Philippines, because we're the ghetto, we have something called the tabo, which is just like a little cup, and then it has a little handle, and you just and so that's always been my experience, you know. And then when I arrived to America and there was toilet paper, I was like, what?
It's
toilet paper nasty.
It's a what?
It's called tabo. It's called tabo, and it's like a little cup with a little, and it has a handle, and then it's like and you just basically just use your hand with soap and water, wash your butt.
I ain't never heard of that.
It looks like.
Well, okay, you guys don't have enough Filipino friends.
Okay, look, all I'm saying is
Filipino friends.
Yeah, they didn't use the tabo.
Look, they don't talk about, was it tabo? Tabo?
Also, we just never talked about how we, you use the bathroom, I guess.
I mean, that's what we had. Well, listen, first of all, the Philippines, hello, third world country, hello. But at least we're clean.
I mean, I just want a bidet. I just want, when we buy our house finally, that's the one thing, that's one of the three things I'm going to request. A real sewing room that I can lock. I want a separate building for my sewing room. I want a bidet.
Separate building.
I want a whole ass building.
I want a separate city.
I want a whole separate building. I want a combination. I want a private sewing building, and my husband's a contractor. I guess those like prefab shed things. He can rig that shit with insulation and AC. That's all I need.
I need a she shed.
I was going to say they call she sheds.
Yes, because my children are bad and they tear up my shit. A bidet, and what was the other thing I told him I wanted? I don't remember now, but I want the bidet, I want the butt cleaner, and I want a shisha.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if anything, COVID brought to light how disgusting toilet paper is.
You right.
Also, I'm sorry.
And how nobody washes their hands.
I should have not been performing at half of these venues before COVID. So now
Okay,
you tell me I'm
let's
gonna
talk
come
about
back.
that.
These venues ain't
nasty.
clean.
Let's talk about that.
girl. They're not
Bruh.
clean.
Let me tell you something.
They don't clean.
Here's my experience. Since I decided to go back to work in a retail environment, but it's a very specialized retail environment. And my boss is former military. She's half Spanish, and she don't give a shit about people's feelings. And if I tell somebody you can't come in here because you ain't got to wear a mask, and they say, "Can I talk to the owner?" She comes to the door. Didn't she say you can't come in here? You think the answer gonna change? Like, that's how she is. But I had a lady that tried me when she was out of town.
Lord, here we go.
When she was out of town because my boss had surgery, and right after going across the country, and this lady's at the door with a man, and he has on a mask. She ain't got on no mask. We keep our door locked with 3 signs that says, "Please ring the doorbell to be let in and have your mask on," because we have to crowd control. And so she's standing at the door with no mask. So I crack it with my mask. "Hi, you have your mask ready?" And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "You have to wear a mask to come in the building." Well, no one's ever bothered me about this before. I was like, "Well, I don't know about anybody else, but we follow the state mandate."
Bloop.
And so she was like, "Well, I don't have a mask." I was like, "Well, if you go to our website, we do offer curbside pickup. So you can go on there, order what you need, and I can bring it to your car."
Good God.
And then she looked at me, and then that's not what pissed me off, y'all. That's not what pissed me off. This wench opens her purse. I'm going to use this. She went like this. "Oh, I have one here." That's what set me off. That. So then she put it on to like here.
Oh, hell.
And I was like, "Okay, sweetheart, it's called a face mask, not a chin strap. I'm going to need you to pull that up over your nose."
Yo, they be trying it.
Because guess what? In this state, not only do you get fined $5,000 per incident if you get caught with somebody without a mask in your shop, it's also a misdemeanor for your business.
Damn.
Ooh, dang.
So I was like, "You're not coming in here, girl. Not on my friend's shop. Not on my watch.
Not on my watch. No, ma'am.
Sorry.
No, ma'am.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye." And she was like, "Well, I was like, "Well, I don't know where you've been going in this county. And I know they lax,
well, and I'm just like this.
You're not coming in here. You're not coming in here."
It's a mask, you guys. Like, it's like, I feel like the people who oppose it so much is because they probably got halitosis.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? Like, their breath is again, bringing back to the point. Fucking nasty. I mean, why else would you refuse a mask? You must have halitosis.
That breath is hot. But
that's what I'm saying. It's hot.
It's so shocking to me.
It's just a fucking mask. It's not that deep. Just put it on.
It's not that deep, bro.
Just put it on.
It's not like she had like the ones I be making with 3 layers, and I make mine 3 layers of freaking cotton with a filter in it to make sure I don't catch nothing from nobody that's nasty. She had that cheap.
It's just
she had the cheap little paper one, so I know she can breathe through it. So I'm like, I have asthma, and I'm still wearing a mask.
I'm just like, I don't care what you believe in. Just wear the fucking mask.
Just put the mask on.
Yeah, I mean, I just stay away from people. It's not any different than what I was doing before.
Look, the nerd in me was like this. I've been preparing for this my whole life as a
exactly. When COVID hit, I was like, finally.
Well, I'm not
celebrated.
So here's my breaking point though. I'm also a true extrovert, so like I get a lot of my energy from interacting with my friends and people that I can have adult conversations with because I'm stuck in my house with children. On the other side, I really didn't need to be around that many people. And I have the internet, so I can do shit like this. So if I want to talk to somebody that bad,
Right. I mean, you could always reach out and create connections and
It's
make connections with
2020. It's
people.
2020. Like I can
Yeah.
have
There's there's numerous ways. Like you don't understand how many conversations I probably had with Lune where we're both talking on IG stories and also on DMs and texting each other while calling each other and like FaceTiming accidentally. Like I've had multiple threads that way and I still pick up the conversation. I'm like, oh, so now we're moving to Instagram now. Oh, okay, great.
Funny,
Now we're back to Facebook. Okay, great.
It's very
like
true.
you can like like I feel like right now it's like definitely a really great time to be creative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really great time to be creative and inventive because people are either gonna rise to the crop or they're not.
For the people that can, do it virtually, I say go for it because there are a lot more different avenues for you to be creative with it. But
Dude,
I mean, if you do have to go back to doing live shows, I mean, like that's nice. I'm just not going to be there. For one, I don't want to see anyone do burlesque right now. I just don't think it's right time for it. It's just completely missing the mark. And two, I don't want to see burlesque that isn't my people, Like, I just don't want to see, no offense to anyone out there or take offense to it, but it's just like, to be honest, I don't want to see white girls strip. I just don't. I don't care that you can dance with a boa to Night Train really, really slowly and do a butt cheek.
Yeah, but have you ever seen somebody dance with a boa?
I'm being for real, y'all. I'm being for real. There's plenty other art forms and dance movements and dance forms that I'm way more interested in and seeing than burlesque. It's just like it's just missing the mark for me because everybody want to pretend like they ain't fucking catering to the male gaze and fuck the patriarchy and all that shit. But that's exactly who you fucking catering to because you need those people. And
but that's a whole nother like
we ain't got time for that conversation.
But I'm saying like I just don't want to be a part of that environment at all.
You're fine.
Because like regardless, I don't know who the fuck is coming to these shows.
Exactly.
I don't. You may be liking seeing me naked one day and then ready to see me fucking like trampled the next day. You know what I mean? Like my body right now, how I use it in my art, in my everyday life is just very, very crucial and critical to me right now.
Well,
and I
would say the stakes are much
careful
higher
in how I use it. Yeah, the stakes are so much higher now than they were before.
So
if I'm going to perform live, I need so much reassurance that I'm going to be okay.
That you're going to be
safe. The stakes are higher because you have people who are more emboldened now with their racism.
Yes, exactly.
And so, like, if you're going to be on a bill and you're going to be on a bill and they see somebody that they're just like, I didn't come to see a fucking brown person. You know what I mean? Not that I've ever really had anything like that happen to me, thank God. But there is this element of just like, this is the current climate right now. And as like performers of color, do you really feel comfortable enough? And if you do, then great. But there's also just this other element now.
That's like I don't even feel safe in my own town walking down the street to go and do stuff. So I don't even feel comfortable taking. I mean, y'all don't know what kind of people are going to be there. What if they follow me out to my car? Is somebody going to walk me to my car? Is somebody going to make sure they don't try and follow me in my car? Like, I mean, like, you don't know what's going to happen.
It's just like the stakes are so much higher. So when I hear like live shows, social distancing, it's just like it's an immediate turn off for me because there are just so many things running through my head than there were before. And I'm not saying like I wasn't precautious before and I wasn't, like trying to be all safe and shit, but it's like it's so much more now than it ever was before. And that's a lot for a Black woman that is queer to deal with. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think it for me. I am totally, I evolve as a person, and my art evolves along the way as well. And I'm okay with my art evolving away from burlesque and doing all that. And like, even with, circus, I'm like, the rate definitely got to go up even higher for circus, because I'm doing all these dangerous like moves where I'm bending and all these different shapes. And the one thing I'm concentrating on is what? My breath. Yeah. Now I gotta wear a mask while I'm in a fucking chest stand, balancing my feet on top of my head while I'm on my face. Like, no. The rate goes up. You know what I mean? Like I said, I was like, that's on some superhero type shit. So it's like, when I think of live performance art, there's just so much more now that goes into my head as far as like preparation and just like concern. You know what I mean? Like it really does change the game. And I just don't see anybody really taking that hard into consideration.
And the other thing, like, I know something that has been hard for me to come to grips with as a performer, and I love performing, but I ain't gonna lie, this has been the most peaceful 6 months of my life.
Yeah.
I got a great part-time job, still working and sewing, and guess what? I'm confident to say if I only performed maybe 6 times a year total, I won't be that upset.
I mean, as long as those performances are well conceptualized, well thought out.
I'm like, I'll do like 3 or 4 cons a year, work with some stuff with but other than that, but that's if shit even gets back to normal, because I'm not stepping by behind in any venue.
It's
sometimes less really is more. Less is sometimes really more. Like, before, I had it in my head, like, I had to do all these gigs to make ends meet, or just to like feel accomplished, like I did something this year. Why do I have to work myself that hard? It's like, no, artists should focus only on a few pieces.
That's how I am.
If you really want to put out good quality shit out there as a performance artist, I feel you can't stretch yourself out too thin.
Well, and I'm also a firm believer in that if you're not really feeling the stage, you should probably get off of it. And that like you should give room to others who are just as hungry for it. I mean, like, this is kind of, performance is just like and the way art is in any medium that you're in, it's an ebb and flow. You're ever constantly in and out, and like, if you're treating it like a business, then yeah, you should probably have a business plan, right? But and if you're still constantly like hungry for that, but like, no one is really forcing you to stick it out except for yourself. And then so like, with this, like, me and Lune talked about this a lot. We didn't really, I wasn't really feeling inspired, to be honest with you. I was just like so horrified with the state of the world, and each day just kept getting like way more depressing than the next day. And like, all I kept thinking was just to make sure like me and my minds were good, right? Yeah. And like catching up with people that I haven't spoken with in a long time, because I've just been like so wrapped up in my whole life, Yeah. And I didn't really find any type of creativity until like probably almost maybe up until 3 weeks ago. I honestly did not find like creativity until then. And then it's just been like, my brain has just bursted, it's like opened up this whole world for me.
Yeah. And like, the only thing I felt any type of inspiration and because I like my focus on myself and on like me as a person during all of this, and I've spoken to a lot of people about it, is how they feel like they're finally realizing, okay, I'm getting back to who I am instead of catering, just like Lune said, to the male gaze, so to speak. Because when you're doing classic burlesque and when you're doing certain stuff, you're like, all right, let me just go ahead. Now, I refuse to dance to any New Orleans jazz standards, and that's because I played music for 15 years. And if I hear Night Train one more time, I'm gonna light it on fire. But like, I started to be, because like back at home, I was like known as the one that does that nerdy stuff before everybody and they mammy got in on the nerdy stuff. And then, or they would book me and be like, well, you can't do any of that nerdy stuff. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm just like, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna do me. Like, the only inspiration I had is nerdy stuff. And if I only perform 6 times a year, it's gonna be 6 good times a year, and I'm gonna sit my ass back in my house, working at my little part-time job that I'm slowly taking over. But, like, it's doing something that I always wanted to do, which is working in a fabric store.
Well,
And it's kind of funny. And then like burlesque has evolved me into other things. Like I have a name, like I got to do TV stuff with the dude that plays as Aladdin, whatever, and the whole movie and stuff. Like, I got to do more extra stuff. So that led up to more networking, which is great, and doing more stuff that I want. That's not just, all right, I'm at a dive bar dancing to Night Train.
Right. Well, you get to a point where you decide, like, I mean, you have more control than you realize, right? And so, like, you get to a point where you're like, okay, you hit these marks or you hit, like, these benchmarks in your performance life, like, that's your goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there comes a time where, like, you become a seasoned performer and then you ask yourself, like, okay, but what am I even really doing on this stage?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what am I even trying to say besides just fucking, here's my boobs, just being naked and looking pretty, or not, or whatever. But it's like, there's still this element of like, what are you even doing up there? And once you start losing track of that, then you don't need to be on stage. You need to go like figure it out.
Yep.
Right.
And find your voice, because this whole oh shit, yo, I got a Jamaican beef patty.
Hell yeah.
Look, grandma's ready. Oh god.
No, I agree. It's like, I felt like
well, fuck my thoughts.
Fucking like I felt like I reached a breaking point too with my creativity, where I was just like, I don't feel inspired by absolutely anything.
I was
especially when you're clocking it in.
Yeah,
because you do when you're performing like 3 fucking nights a week or like 4 or however long, you don't have the luxury to constantly create something new, especially when you have like, okay, these are like 4 solid acts and like you got to repair your costumes. You have to, there's this expectation, like, and every market is different. Every city is totally different.
Every city's different.
So it's like, once you get to a point where you're like doing it so many times, it's like, you're going to you're going to totally lose some steam. And then you have no room for creativity anymore.
And that's
especially when people start looking at you and then they start stealing your acts and they start stealing your shit.
We don't even have time for that. That's a whole other discussion. Like, I could go into a whole thing about that. But, like, it's just crazy, like, how, I purposely did step back. Like, once I moved, it was kind of my time to reevaluate my life. Not just from a performer aspect, but from a muggle aspect and stuff like that, where I did start doing less shows and only did the nerdy crap that I wanted, or if it was a quote unquote classic show, that I could do what my idea of classic is, not what the standard idea of classic is, and honestly, like, I'm just kind of like, this is fine. It's been 6 months. All right. I'm like, I'm getting more stuff done. I'm learning new sewing skills.
Like I think this is a good time to allow yourself to evolve in other aspects of your creativity.
Yep.
I really do. I think this is the perfect time, whether it's sewing or just being more
You're learning
creative.
new skills.
You're learning new skills.
You're learning new skills that's going to be really applicable in ways that you didn't realize it would be. And
I don't understand.
And you get a higher advantage.
And it's so funny. I've started quilting. I've made 4 quilts. Don't know what for. They're in my house. They're just hanging out. But like I've learned sewing skills from it. And I was like, my boss was like, they don't really have like nerdy quilts out there that are just made. Like you could just have a whole niche of that, a whole niche for that niche. I can't talk to now. A whole niche for that type of shit. But she's teaching me software that I could never afford because I'm working for her, and teaching me stuff that I haven't learned, like you said, evolving. And like it's just like I could be a nerdy quilt maker and be extra as fuck because I learned how to rig lighting in a goddamn quilt. So like but which is something, because she's like, let me tell you how to quilt clothing. Like she was like showing me how to make clothes, and I'm like, oh shit, I see some bullshit in my future.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I feel this is a perfect time to really spend the time to be like, okay, yeah, my finances or the way that I was working or my life before, that fucking sucks, right? And I'm not saying like, oh, everybody get to being creative, because it's really hard.
Yeah, it is, and it's not cheap.
But when it's like striking when the iron's hot, when that shit pops off in your head, do it. Just run with it. Because you just are going to, I mean, there's multiple ways of looking at things, but you're going to have to pull yourself out of this, because this is, I mean, like, we're kind of all left within our community, with our friends, with ourselves, to create a space, to thrive. Because right now, nothing is like, what, 40% of things are even functioning right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and I'm lucky to be able to like work and still be, and working remotely and working from home. Like, I'm really grateful for that, and like, I try to offer help or like donate money to people that I'm like, hey, like, I know that they've been working in the arts the whole time. So it's like, I try to help as much as I can, but also it's like, now is the time to really create that space for yourself. That you've always wanted to do.
Agreed.
Grow yourself. Expand your horizons.
Within and without.
Exactly, right. All right, guys, we are pretty
Speaking of which, my show, Lady in the Corner.
Bitch.
I've been living every time. I'm just like, what? I love this bitch so much. I love her so much.
I have a show called Lady in the Corner. It's just me in the corner of the internet doing really a lot of things poorly. So I'm going to have special, not so very special guests. And it's if anybody is a fan of vintage, like sleaze, like like Betty Page dance videos, where it's like, I don't know how that woman made dancing with her knees sexy. Oh yeah, with her eyes, or make it, or no, but I'm saying like she's just like touching her knees, and it's so damn awkward.
But I'm trying to do the knee thing where she's like,
yeah, like just weirdly gyrating air, like terribly.
But I just want to.
But you're like,
can I just be?
Yeah, but you're somehow. Oh yeah, but you're somehow turned on by it. I'm like, wait, hold on. I kind of like this, but this is really weird. It's like super campy. But anyways, if you've ever watched vintage sleaze like that, or like little like, smut films from the 40s and 50s, it's reminiscent to that, but it's just way worse.
It does give me that whole like vintage vibe, but the scarf one, I was.
Oh, my scarf dance? Oh, yeah. I was inspired by the art of fabric of manipulation.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know how there's Lord of the Dance? There's like Dance of the Scarves, I
mean, there's called a belly dance called the Dance of the Seven Veils, but I don't know what that was.
Well, this was kind of trying to recreate that, maybe.
All right. So before we go.
Yeah, check it out. Lady in the Corner.
I'm going to big screen you guys. Okay, so first let's say, how do I do this? Hi to Lune, and thank you for coming. Wearing my special things. Be sure to follow her at Lune Noirr on Instagram. And if you would like to tip her, boo. All right, and then we gotta bring this back. I'm gonna figure this out. There we go. Still new to this. And then we have Grandma. Let's do this one first. Follow her at Grandma Foot on Instagram. But you can tip her some doll hairs. Grandma Foot.
You can go ahead, tip me.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining me for this tomfoolery. I will see y'all next week. And hopefully we can get another fun person on and talk about some random stuff. So thank you guys. Y'all don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. And I will see y'all next week. I'm talking to them. All right. Bye, guys. Bye.